Yes, 5th May 2022. Let's see which are the important articles. Okay, so look at the first page. Important development from economy section. RBI surprises with 40 basis points rate increase amid inflation alarm. Okay, so yes, in last few months, especially last 3 months, we have witnessed high levels of retail inflation in India. And yes, it is important mandate of RBI or RBI-led MPC, Monetary Policy Committee, to control this retail inflation. Okay, so as it has crossed the 6% mark consistently in last 3 months, now the RBI has taken this decision to increase the policy rate, that is repo rate here. Okay, so this is important development. There is one editorial on page number 8 regarding this, so analyzing this step by the RBI. Okay, so both article together we will discuss. On right hand side, President has no role to play in Pararivalence plea, says Supreme Court. So earlier we have told you here for prelims examination you should take input here that how a particular person or convict, let's say who is facing death sentence or life sentence, the pardoning powers of president and governor. Okay, so this was in news in last, I guess 3 years ago. Before that, when there was a death sentence of one of the convict was going to happen, and or simply those Nirbhaya incident, let's say happened, and the convicts of that case. So at that time, the mercy petition issue was continuously in news. Okay, so how this mercy petition works? Okay, so who is involved first as a first authority, then let's say above that. So ये सारी चीज़ें वहाँ पे important है, hierarchy में वो चीज़ें याद रखनी है. Basically here the Supreme Court in this particular case is saying to the central government that it is president is having no role in deciding mercy petition by this person. Rather, it is the governor who is deciding authority, and the governor may take the view of central government, advice of central government here in taking that decision. So president is not having any view here, or president is not allowed to take decision here.
Mercy petition for capital punishment or for other?
Capital punishment only. So otherwise, the governor is the, let's say, authority.
Yes.
Otherwise, the governor is the authority. Okay.
But sir, you told that governor is taking.
See, under Article 161, the governor was bound by aid or advice given by Tamil Nadu Council of Ministers in September 2018. Yes, so now the person has already served over 30 years of life sentence. The governor prima facie had no authority to transfer the mercy plea to the president. There was no role for the president here under the constitution. This is the view expressed. Okay, the governor is supposed to decide rather than transferring that plea to the president. Okay. Now moving on, see on the bottom side, on left hand side, you can see Supreme Court to look into sealed cover jurisprudence. Okay, so this was in news. Sealed cover jurisprudence. What do you mean by sealed cover jurisprudence?
The decision should be kept under sealed cover.
They will not ever express in open.
Yes.
Only the authority, authorized person is.
Yes.
Right to.
So whatever the communication between the judiciary and the parties involved, so that communication will happen in a sealed cover. So many times what happens is on the sensitive issues, especially related to security of the state, law and order issue. Okay, so those issues generally the communication happens in the sealed cover. But in recent time it is observed that central government uses this sealed cover option in small matters also. Okay, especially policy related matters. Like for example, recently there was let's say issue or the case that Supreme Court was listening to related to farmers protest. Okay, so in that also the committee report, the committee that was established by the Supreme Court there, that report was also submitted in the sealed cover, and that is it, that is not in public domain. Okay, so such kind of things happens, and basically it is the right of the people to know. Okay, right to know जिसको हम बोलते हैं, right to information जिसको हम बोलते हैं, that is being violated here. Okay, so yes, let's see what happens in future. Media One case, the appeal is there. Okay, in the past we have dealt the Kerala High Court, how it has dealt with the this Media One ban by the government of India. Okay, and the Kerala High Court has upheld this ban. But now it is the Media House has appealed to Supreme Court regarding this. Now, NEET exemption bill sent to Home Ministry. The Governor of Tamil Nadu has sent that bill to Home Ministry. Home Ministry will review that and it will, let's say, send to President for its assent. Okay. Now, come to page number 8. Just before that, एक छोटा सा न्यूज़ है, पेज नंबर 5 पे. Kerala seeks to contain Shigaella spread. Okay, so it is nothing but a bacteria, Shigaella soni bacteria, which are found to have caused food poisoning in people who had ate shawarma in one of the restaurant in Kasaragod, Kerala. Okay, so just remember from prelims perspective, ठीक है, तो आपको पता होना चाहिए कि इसका स्प्रेड वहाँ पे केरला में हो रहा है with symptoms, let's say, of diarrhea, vomiting, okay, fever, all these are symptoms there.
Sir, why most of the bacterial or viral infections start from Kerala?
See, first thing we should understand, it is tropical state. In tropical state, especially when there are warmer temperatures, the bacteria growth is at very high rate. And if there it is, let's say, again forested area largely, so again we can say it aids to such bacterial growth. Not we will say virus. Virus is having different connotation here. Rather, in Kerala, why we observe first cases of such viral infection? Because the people of Kerala, they are migrating outside India frequently.
African countries and Arab countries.
Not African, rather Gulf countries. Mostly Gulf countries. Okay, we know that Indian diaspora from Kerala lives in Gulf countries, and they are migrating continuously, moving from.
But sir, in Gulf countries, we do not have any news regarding bacterial
Yes.
infection and others.
Yes, surely, but
Karnataka, on the other hand, Tamil Nadu have the same kind of, not Tamil Nadu, but Karnataka and those who are on the western coast, they having more or less same topography.
yes, we can say that coastal areas.
Yes, sir. Why Kerala?
Kerala largely we will say viral infections, they are coming from outside. Even you can take the case of Nipah virus, you can take the earlier cases of what you can say that
Sir, virus in ducks, virus in chicken, virus in...
या फिर हम जो बोलते हैं कि कोविड का भी फर्स्ट केस हम देखते हैं कि केरला में ही स्टार्ट हुआ है.
नहीं सर, राजस्थान में वो जो इटालियन फॉरेनर आए थे.
अच्छा हाँ, वो बाद में हुआ, बट मैक्सिमम जो बाद में जो केसेस स्प्रेड हुए वो केरला में ही हुए. Okay, yes, despite of having good healthcare system, especially primary healthcare system, such kind of spread happens. Simply we should understand the warmer temperatures contributes to the bacterial growth, and virus especially we need to understand there that the people, they are moving outside country continuously and coming in contact with the people from other countries. Okay, so first instance of spread happens generally in that. Okay, so yes, that is one of the reason we are saying, not that sole reason. Okay, now on page number 8, editorial page. Okay, on left hand side, inevitable increase. Okay, so this editorial is having the context of yesterday's increase of policy rate, repo rate by RBI, and that decision is being analyzed here. Okay.
Right, sir.
On bottom side, it is time in the time of war. So our Prime Minister visited Europe. So there he bilaterally visited the heads of different Nordic countries, Scandinavian countries, Sweden, Finland, at the same time Germany also, and he is going to visit the
Denmark.
yes, the head of France also today, Emmanuel Macron. So from this aspect, what these development from IR section, especially when Ukraine-Russia war is going on, okay, in that backdrop, how India needs to move carefully, cautiously with relations to other European countries, how to balance the interests there, ये वहाँ पे उन्होंने analyze किया है IR section से. Now on page number 9, the worrying state of press freedom in India. On bottom side there is data point. Yesterday we talked about World Press Freedom Index.
Right, sir.
India's ranked further declined to 150 from last year 142. Okay, some countries comparison is given there. At the same time, within the different categories how India ranked, that is also mentioned. And on the bottom side you can see that which are the criterias used. In detail the definitions have been mentioned. Although UPSC will not ask that, but simply will try to understand in which particular indicator India has, a worse situation. You can see that 163 rank in safety of the journalists.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so safety of the journalist, you can see that on bottom side the definitions: bodily harm, ability to gather news without unnecessary risk, okay, psychological and emotional distress. ये सारी चीज़ें वो उन्होंने हार्म में मेंशन किया हुआ है कैटेगरीज. ओके, सो यू शुड बी अवेयर अबाउट विच पर्टिकुलर कैटेगरी स्पेशली वी आर फेसिंग द प्रॉब्लम इन दैट इंडेक्स, है ना. तो अब हमें आंसर लिखते वक्त एक आइडिया आ जाता है कि स्पेसिफिक पॉइंट लिखने के लिए विद इन प्रेस फ्रीडम ऑल्सो दिस पर्टिकुलर एरिया इज एरिया ऑफ कंसर्न. यस. Yes, on page number 10, the status of GST compensation due. We are not covering this because simply why this article is written recently. We have seen that news in April month, the highest GST collections happened. Right. So with that context, this article is written. Although UPSC has also asked last year in mains examination about this issue. तो अभी वो फिर से क्वेश्चन तो नहीं आएगा, but you should have follow up here. The compensation, the time limit was 2021, it is now extended to 2026. Last year we have extensive follow up of this, the issue of compensation, GST compensation dues. Okay, and now as the GST collections have improved, it is expected that the center will let's say give all the dues to the states. ठीक है, तो इतना ही है उसका जो क्रक्स है. Yes, on page number 13, Prime Minister Modi held bilateral talks with Nordic leaders. Okay, so from IR section, bilateral, which are the areas of cooperation with each country. Along with that, some unique points are mentioned. The Indian government or our Prime Minister, while during this visit, had given some gifts, unique gifts from India to these leaders, and that is important from art and culture perspective. Okay, so कौन से आर्ट एंड कल्चर पर्सपेक्टिव से उन्होंने वो वी कैन से आर्ट पीसेस दिए हैं, कौन से लीडर को दिए हैं. मैच द फॉलोइंग, और सपोज लेट्स से, ऑल्दो यूपीएससी विल नॉट आस्क सच स्पेसिफिक क्वेश्चन, बट इट इज फॉर्डर फॉर यू. In today's lecture we have just provided those gifts. Tomorrow what we'll do, in detail we'll try to find out about those art and crafts. ठीक है, सो इट विल बी फॉर्डर फॉर योर प्रीलिम्स एग्जामिनेशन. क्या पता उस पर क्वेश्चन पूछ ले आपको.
कुछ भी पूछ सकते हैं.
यस, Of course, yes. Now on page number 14, highest sex ratio at birth in Ladakh. This particular report is released by Registrar General of India from the data of, we can say, Civil Registration System 2020. Okay. So latest data related to sex ratio. Okay. So that table is providing top 5 states, bottom 5 states. Simply the data we should be, taking input here. Health GS2 paper HRD part is there. In essay, suppose you are supposed to write some facts. Okay. So health indicators में आपको sex ratio at birth उसके related updated facts यहाँ पे आपको मिल रहे हैं. Then on bottom side, unique from miscellaneous perspective we can understand this. Haflong Hindi, a fluent example of give and take. Okay, this Haflong language is kind of blend of Hindi, Bengali and Nepali language spoken in one of the hilly district of Assam. Okay, तो जो हम बोल रहे थे ना कि हिंदी एज अ लिंक लैंग्वेज या हिंदी एज अ नेशनल लैंग्वेज, ये डिबेट चल रहा है, राइट? So how local factors can be integrated into Hindi? This is the example. Okay, the people by themselves have integrated these factors and communicated in this unique language which had elements of Hindi as well as Bengali and Nepali language. Okay, so just remember that we will try to take input from miscellaneous perspective. एक ऐसे additional information होना चाहिए आपको. Fine. Okay, so these are the important articles. Let's discuss them. First one, inevitable increase. Okay, so Monetary Policy Committee voted to raise the repo rate by 40 basis points to 4.4 with immediate effect. Along with that, it has also increased the CRR as well as MSF and SDF facilities. Okay, the overnight facilities that are provided by the RBI to commercial banks. Fine. So we should understand this particular decision has been taken in the backdrop of high levels of inflation in the country, especially in last 3 months. It has breached the target of 6%. Okay, so we know that MPC is having the statutory objective of maintaining this retail inflation of 4% plus or minus 2%. Okay, so as it has breached the upper limit, so it needed to take certain decision. Last MPC meeting had not changed the repo rate but had changed its stance, had said that we will give importance to inflation as compared to or over the economic growth. That was the view expressed, and now let's say it has not waited for next meeting, rather in between it has taken this decision. Now let's understand and analyze this decision here. We know that there is Ukraine-Russia war is going on, and because of that at international level itself there is overall high levels of inflation. This inflation is fueled by high crude oil prices.
Yes, sir.
Then high edible oil, natural gas also.
Yes, sir.
Then
Fertilizers.
yes, fertilizer or overall commodity prices are very high. Okay, and ultimately the effect is happening on Indian economy also, especially because of first two factors. Okay, so input cost is increasing, and because of that there is high level of inflation. Now theoretically speaking, what is the impact of inflation? High level of inflation. Okay, so first and foremost we should understand is that it impacts negatively on, we can say, yes, negative impact. So it erodes purchasing power especially of poor people. That's why it disproportionately impact the poor people. What do you mean by eroding purchasing power?
The same product we need to purchase in high power, high money, sir. High level of cost.
So what happens?
The purchasing power of the money reduced. So you have to spend more for a particular commodity as you did before.
Example,
Yes.
100 rupees product, it will increase.
Petrol is the best example.
Okay, so simply we can give the example. Suppose let's say earlier the same product was let's say for 90 rupees. Now it has to be bought at 100 rupees. Okay, so that means the poor person is paying more for same commodity.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so its purchasing power is getting decline, the poor persons. ठीक है, so this is the negative impact. Then it negatively impacts savings, investment. It affects competitiveness of Indian goods in the international market.
Nice.
And overall impact on economic growth. There are chances that, let's say, the country may move towards stagflation. That is lower economic growth, higher inflation. Okay, so this is in general impact, and we need to arrest this high levels of inflation. And at present, RBI is taking these decisions. Now, in addition to these decisions, there is one concern called as imported inflation. Imported inflation, it is largely related to the kind of investment that happen into the country and the volatility related to that investment. Okay, suppose the foreign exchange or simply the investment happens in dollars. So what happens during that time? When this dollar is invested, the money needs to be, the equal amount of money is fueled into the economy. Okay, so what happens because of that? Money supply increases. Because of that, money supply increases, and when there is high money supply in the economy, there will be high inflation. Okay, so this imported inflation, this is also cause of concern at present.
Because of FDI.
Yes, different kind of investments happening into the country, including FDI, FIIs, all this we can say types of investment. Okay, so this is also one of the concern.
The government also is spending on infrastructure projects.
Yes, but simply we can say that is not the major concern, because it is resulting into capital assets. That is further leading to economic growth.
Right.
But such kind of investment, especially FIIs, so they are not productive. They will seek to have only profits, otherwise they will fly. Okay, so this is one of the concern. Now what should be the way forward? Yes, here onwards RBI will try to deal with or tackle this high levels of inflation through monetary policy. Okay, so it will increase the interest rate. What will happen when there is higher interest rate?
Sir, excessive liquidity reduces the market.
When there is higher repo rate. So what is repo rate?
When the Reserve Bank of India lends money to the commercial banks.
Yes, so RBI lends the money to the commercial bank at this rate. So it leads to credit creation, right? It leads to credit creation, and when the credit becomes costly, then the business houses or the people do not take credit. That means the production capacities will come down. And then what will happen? Automatically the amount of goods that are in demand, they will come down, and because of that inflation will come down. At present the money is chasing to higher amount of goods, and because of that there is inflation. There needs to be the amount of goods in the economy, they needs to come down. तो अभी ये क्रेडिट क्रिएशन जो है कम हो जाएगा, तो उससे क्या होगा? इन्वेंट्री कम हो जाएगा. उसकी वजह से क्या होगा? जितना मनी है उसके बराबर से गुड्स होंगे. अभी क्या है? गुड्स, नंबर ऑफ गुड्स ज्यादा है, मनी कम है. ओके, सो बिकॉज ऑफ दैट ऑल्सो देयर इज हाई इन्फ्लेशन.
Amount of money is more and goods are in less numbers. That's why there is inflation.
No. It's other way around. I will explain that part. See what happens when the money is high and the goods are less, no? So it will be cheaper. It will be cheaper, no? मनी ज़्यादा है आपके पास तो आप नंबर ऑफ गुड्स ज़्यादा खरीद सकते हैं. वो सेम मनी अगर ज़्यादा गुड्स को कम गुड्स को चेस कर रहा है तो उससे क्या होगा, उसका प्राइस जो होगा वो अप्रोप्रिएट होगा. जस्ट अ मोमेंट, ठीक है. ठीक है, 10 रुपीज़ है, 2 गुड्स है. समझो ये जो गुड्स है हमने एक करवाया और समझो मनी जो है वो सेम रह गया. ठीक है, तो दैट मीन्स वी आर एबल टू नंबर ऑफ गुड्स कम हो गए तो ये मनी का जो है परचेसिंग पावर बढ़ेगा. ऐसा मुझे बोलना है, परचेसिंग पावर बढ़ेगा इसका.
सर ये तो रिड्यूस हो गया. पहले आप 10 रुपए में 2 चीज ले गए थे, अब 10 रुपए में आप एक चीज लेते हो.
नहीं ये
इन्फ्लेशन सर.
नहीं, नंबर ऑफ गुड्स मैं बोल रहा हूँ. अगर हम प्रोडक्शन कम करें, ठीक है, मैं एक एग्जांपल दे रहा हूँ यहाँ पर. ठीक है, एक गुड नहीं है, बहुत सारे गुड्स है. अच्छा हाँ, ऐसे अगर हम सोचते हैं तो ऑफ कोर्स एक गुड खरीदने के लिए 10 रुपए अगर लग रहे हैं तो इन्फ्लेशन है. यस, दिस इज इन्फ्लेशन. बट व्हेन द नंबर ऑफ गुड्स इंक्रीज्ड एंड द सेम अमाउंट इज यूज्ड, सो ये डिक्लाइन. ओके, बट एट प्रेजेंट व्हाट वी आर सेइंग इज when there is high level of inflation, let me explain this basics here. When there is high level of inflation, what happens is there is high amount of money supply. Okay, now when there is high amount of money supply, some amount of money is used to buy goods, but remaining amount of money is बेसिकली इंक्रीजिंग द डिमांड ऑफ दैट गुड. ठीक है, तो उसकी वजह से वो गुड का प्राइस बहुत ज्यादा हो रहा है एक्स्ट्रा मनी की वजह से. ठीक है, एक्स्ट्रा मनी की वजह से क्या हो रहा है, उसका डिमांड बढ़ रहा है. समझो कल को लोगों के पास पैसा ही नहीं होगा तो उसका डिमांड नहीं होगा. ओके, सो दिस इज एक्चुअली द कंसर्न. नाउ व्हेन द मनी सप्लाई रिड्यूसेस, द डिमांड फॉर गुड ऑटोमेटिकली विल कम डाउन. ओके, सो क्रेडिट क्रिएशन वाला जो कॉन्सेप्ट है इससे लिंक्ड है. व्हेन वी रिड्यूस द क्रेडिट क्रिएशन, द अमाउंट ऑफ मनी अवेलेबल विद द पीपल विल रिड्यूस, एंड बिकॉज ऑफ दैट द रिलेशन बिटवीन द नंबर ऑफ गुड्स एंड द बाइंग कैपेसिटी ऑफ द पीपल वो बैलेंस हो जाएगा, जिसको इन्फ्लेशन से रिलेट करते हैं हम. ये मिसमैच होता है तो इन्फ्लेशन कम ज्यादा होता है. ओके, so yes, there is one article on page number 9 which explains this concept in the first part. ठीक है, पेज नंबर 9 पे आपको एक आर्टिकल मिलेगा, वो एक्सप्लेन करता है ये इन फर्स्ट पार्ट. Yes, so way forward, yes, MPC policy is there, but along with that what government can do? So government can reduce the taxes on fuel. So the input cost in the manufacturing of goods will reduce, and because of that what will happen, there will be reduced inflation, retail inflation. Along with that, for the long term measure boost, we can say a production of edible oil, so that the prices of edible oil will come down. Temporary measure, reduce the taxes on import of edible oil, so that the price of edible oil will also come down. Long term measure, again aggressively shift towards renewable energy. Electric vehicles, transmission, use of electricity, hydrogen energy. Long term में ये जरूरी है, because all this inflation is largely happening because of crude oil prices, natural gas, and at present in food section related to edible oil. Okay, yes. Next, in the time of war, Prime Minister's visit to Europe. Okay, so 3 nation visit to Europe. So let's understand the outcome. Germany has announced 10 billion euro for bilateral cooperation. Also, it has said India is its central pillar in Asia and that close cooperation would continue to expand. Our Prime Minister also attended India Nordic Summit, second India Nordic Summit in Copenhagen with leaders of Denmark, Norway, Sweden, Finland and Iceland. Okay, and then our Prime Minister will also visit France to meet the President Emmanuel Macron, who was recently re-elected. Okay, so we'll talk about the several other, let's say, the outcome of the meeting here we will talk about separately. Bilateral talks. Yes, you can see here second India Nordic Summit in Copenhagen. He began his day by meeting Norwegian counterpart. Our talks include furthering cooperation in sectors such as blue economy, clean energy, space, healthcare and more. Norway is key pillar in recently announced Arctic policy of India. We have discussed that Arctic policy in ED lecture recently, editorial discussion. Okay, so Norway is key pillar और कहाँ पे cooperation है? Blue economy, then clean energy, space, healthcare and Arctic. Okay, so Prime Minister also had meeting with Swedish counterpart during the visit, which they discussed ways to deepen bilateral ties and progress in the joint action plan between two countries and cooperation in key sectors like security, IT, research and innovation. Okay. In a separate meeting, Prime Minister held talks with Iceland Prime Minister and lauded let's say her personal efforts at protecting gender equality and briefed her on India's advances on the issue. Then he also met his Finnish counterpart and discussed ways to further cement bilateral ties on trade, investment, technology, culture and other sectors. Okay. This is the case or simply bilateral discussion agreements. Now, in analysis, what we should understand here is Ukraine-Russia war is going on and European countries are concerned about that war. India at present has taken neutral stand. Neutral stand on this war. It does not want to, anger Russia also. So there is some kind of now delicate actions that are required by India. So India is trying to have good relations with both other European countries as well as Russia. Why they are important? Yes, West European countries or these Nordic countries are important from technology perspective, especially in renewable energy. Their investment in India is also important for us. Along with that, the third aspect is cultural ties, people to people ties. Okay, so there is substantial number of people from Indian origin living in those countries. So India also benefits from these countries in terms of the way they have implemented their welfare programs. Okay, so how they ensure gender equality, how they ensure governance in those countries and having good human development index. From that aspect also they are helpful. Okay, now on the other side, Russia is also important for us. You should remember recently Sweden and Finland, both they have expressed their will to join NATO.
Yes.
Okay, so it is creating some kind of concern for us. Okay, now Russia is important for us, especially for defense imports. Okay, along with that the fertilizer import. Also strategically Russia is important for us. In past also Russia has helped us, especially in UN. Okay, UNSC resolutions. So that's why we don't want to, hurt those relations also. Along with that, special, let's say, country, that is Germany. Okay, India and Germany shares good ties, and on the issue of this war, both countries had maintained some kind of similar stand. Why? Because India is dependent on Russia, as well as Germany is dependent on Russia for almost 40% of its natural gas requirements. That's why Germany is not aggressive, although it has aligned itself with US and NATO. Along with that, we can say it has aligned with the West-led sanctions on Russia, but it is not sending the military equipments, arms and ammunition to the Ukraine like other countries. Okay, so simply we should understand this.
Germany is a member of NATO.
Yes, Germany है ना NATO का member.
मुझे नहीं पता.
नहीं है, जर्मनी भी है. Okay, yes, so that's why the statements given by, let's say, Germany and India on the war, they are to some extent aligning. And yes, they have announced 10 billion euro for bilateral cooperation. This is also good development, important development. Okay, so in analysis we should understand this, and as a way forward also we should say that the strategic autonomy is to be maintained while dealing with any country. Along with that, we should focus more on national interest, that is economic growth at present. So that's why whenever we talk about relations with these countries, focus on economic growth should be there. ठीक है, trade, investment, technology transfer, all these aspects you should talk about. Okay, तो इस पे ज़्यादा फोकस होना चाहिए. Fine. Now moving on, the worrying state of press freedom in India. Recently, this Press Freedom Index, World Press Freedom Index 2022, the 20th edition of this index has been released by Reporters Without Border, NGO working headquartered in Paris, France. So out of 180 country, India was ranked at 150th position, 8 points higher as compared to last year. Okay. Now, the different categories are mentioned within that index. So across the categories, the India's ranking you can. So the overall ranking is 150, but in economic context 149, legislative framework 120, political context you can see 145. The highest rank is related to safety of journalists 163. So major concern is this one 163, that is safety of journalists. Okay, so you should be aware about this. Comparatively you can see Nepal 76 is there. Sudan is better than India, South Sudan, in terms of press freedom. Brazil and South Africa you can see being one of the developing countries, it is having 35 rank. Okay, and Norway is the first one. Fine. So this is actually cause of concern. We can say that within these, what are these let's say safety related issue, you can see ability to gather news without unnecessary risk, bodily harm, violence, arrest, detention, abduction, including murder, psychological and emotional distress that could result from intimidation, coercion, harassment, surveillance. Okay, so then professional harm resulting from example loss of one's job, confiscation, ये सारी चीज़ें उसमें included है. And there are several cases in India, like for example ये होता है, intimidation is very common, harassment, surveillance. If we talk about, let's say,
surveillance about whom?
Journalists.
Or
Okay, surveillance is very common thing. We don't know about this.
I think it's about Pegasus surveillance.
Yes, we can take the example, but we are talking about journalists here, and yes, some of the names of journalists are also there in that Pegasus case.
Okay.
ठीक है, जर्नलिस्ट, नोटेड जर्नलिस्ट का भी नाम है उसमें. ओके, सो यस, फाइन. सो just be aware about this particular factor, how India's rank has changed. ओके, तो ये 128 था एक टाइम पे. ओके, फिर 100 के अंदर भी आया हुआ है, सॉरी 110 टू 100 टू 110 में बीच में भी है वो एक दो बार. Then again, since 2000 we can say 9, it is continuously increasing like this. From that year onwards there is concern related to press freedom. Okay, now we are talking about this bilateral meeting. So you can see dignitaries and the gifts given. Okay, so Danish queen, a Rogan painting, an art of cloth printing practiced in Gujarat, Kutch. First one. Second, Crown Princess Mary of Denmark, a silver Minakari bird figure from Banaras. Finland Prime Minister, brass tree of life from Rajasthan. Prime Minister of Norway, a dhal with Koftgiri art of Rajasthan. Then Prime Minister of Denmark, a wall hanging with Kutch embroidery. Prime Minister of Sweden, a pashmina stole in a papier matchbox from Jammu and Kashmir. Then Crown Prince of Denmark, a ढोकरा boat from Chhattisgarh. अब हमें क्या find out करना है? UPSC will not ask match the following, rather state PCS वाले इसमें पूछेंगे match the following. Okay, but for us these art forms are important for prelims examination.
Yes, sir.
So tomorrow what we'll do, we'll add separate article regarding some brief information about all these. पश्मीना सबको पता है, ठीक है, many times we cover this. हाँ, so आप राजस्थान से हो इसलिए आपको पता है, बट बाकी स्टूडेंट्स को नहीं पता है, ठीक है, इंक्लूडिंग मी, आई एम फ्रैंक, ठीक है, आर्ट एंड कल्चर मेरा बहुत वीक है, ठीक है, तो हम उसको सारी इंफॉर्मेशन कलेक्ट करेंगे एंड विल ट्राई टू रिवाइज इट.
राजस्थान में मोस्टली यही दिया जाता है, वहाँ पे भी कोई गेस्ट आता है ना तो उसको वही दिया जाता है, वो जो ढालनी होती है जो पकड़ते हैं,
अच्छा,
उसके
हाँ.
साथ वो तलवार होती है,
Okay.
तो ऐसा कॉम्बिनेशन.
हाँ हाँ हाँ, यस यस यस, ओके, ढाल विथ कोफ्तगिरी आर्ट. Okay, we'll see that. We'll try to find out information tomorrow about all these art forms. Okay, the highest sex ratio at birth in Ladakh. The recent data based on virtual statistics 2020 civil registration system report released by the Registrar General of India. Every year this report is released and the updated data is given on the basis of this civil registration system.
The National Family Health Service also gives the same.
But that is, we can say, after 4-5 years. It is annual. This is annual. Okay. So that's why latest data, the top 5 states UTs, Ladakh. Last year it was Arunachal Pradesh. It is this year Ladakh. 1104. Then Arunachal Pradesh 11011. So it is favorable in these two, Ladakh and Arunachal Pradesh. Then Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Tripura, Kerala. Bottom states, Manipur, Dadra Nagar Haveli, Gujarat, Haryana, Madhya Pradesh. So you are not finding eastern states here, because eastern states, they have not provided the data. Okay.
Haryana also improved from 850 to 960.
Yes, it is good development. Okay. But you can see here that there is no Maharashtra, Sikkim, Uttar Pradesh, Delhi, in the data is not available. Otherwise यहाँ पे हम देखते कि कुछ eastern states यहाँ पर भी होते.
Sir, actually it's a data from municipal system, I think.
Yes, civil registration system, local government जो होता है, and it is voluntary provided by all these states. ठीक है, तो the data is not available from all states.
Right.
Although just you should remember top states and bottom states from the recent data. Fine? Okay. Now Haflong Hindi, a fluent example of give and take. Why give and take? We are talking about how the different languages, they can be blended and they can be, used as a language of communication. A nativized Hindi associated with Assam's only hill station is trying to hold its own amid a row over center's move to make Hindi compulsory in high schools across Northeast India. Hindi reached Dima Hasao, a district formerly called North Chachar district, in the late 1800s primarily through merchants and construction workers who worked on the mountain railway system. Okay, तो ऐसे हिंदी वहाँ पहुँचा है. But later on, it came to be known as Haflong Hindi, named after the headquarters of district where Dimasa people are dominant community. Haflong Hindi follows Tibeto-Burman grammar, not Hindi grammar. Okay, and has lexical additions from Nepali and Bengali. And it has a generic plural marker and does not use numbers as in Hindi. Number use नहीं करते हैं. ठीक है, तो ये प्लूरल जेनरिक कैसे यूज होता है? फॉर इंस्टेंस द प्लूरल ऑफ लड़की और गर्ल इन हैफ्लॉन्ग हिंदी इज लड़की लुक. ठीक है, लड़की लुक बोलते हैं वहां पर प्लूरल को. यस, नॉट लड़कियां. यस, सो हाँ, मे बी नेपाली वर्ड वो यूज करते होंगे. ठीक है, सो such kind of, let's say, lexical additions happened into Hindi and the local dialect developed here, we can say. Such kind of examples you can mention in essay paper. कहाँ पे यूज करना है इसको? essay paper में यूज करता है. जैसे हिंदी जो है as it is not important to be used all over India. Rather, Hindi has voluntarily blended into local languages. है ना? तो जैसे suppose if you take the example of Maharashtra, in Marathi language also some words from Hindi are there. In Gujarati language we can say some Hindi words are also there in Gujarati language also. Okay, so such, let's say, blending and of the all different languages and new language is spoken in those areas. It adds to, we can say, linguistic diversity. ठीक है. Okay, so any question from your side? Tomorrow we will cover that art and culture part. तो उसमें थोड़े MCQs भी solve करेंगे हम.
Tuesday वाला, वो Monday वाला हो गया क्या?
Yes, yesterday we have uploaded the recorded video of Tuesday. Tuesday is the Indonesian. ईद जिस दिन थे हुआ, हाँ, yes. Yes, many students who are watching this video online on YouTube, so they are not able to watch because of some technical issues. Echo आ रहा है sound में. ठीक है, बहुत students ने वो highlight किया है and we are trying to resolve that issue. Till that time, it is advisable that you provide us your mail ID. We will provide you Zoom link. You can attend this lecture in live manner on Zoom link also. Okay, so you can call at Lukmaan IS, provide your mail ID or your phone number, and we will provide you this Zoom link also. For time being, we are saying that. Okay, fine. Okay, let us stop there.